Okay, the video is recording. We're going to annotate, make sure we've annotated. We're going to record. Okay, we're going to start this video, and the main thing we need to do in this section is we need to make sure that when we have a negative exponent, it means you have to revert it into 1 over something. So negative exponents can be written using positive exponents using the negative exponent rule, and that makes it easier to deal with instead of using that working with the negative exponent up here. You know that it's going to be 1 over x squared, so then you're in the positive mode instead of the negative mode, and you move it into a fraction. So just like when you do whole numbers, you do the same thing with exponents. Okay, so if you had x to the negative 5, it would just be 1 over x to the 5th. 3m to the negative 2. The 3 stays on top because it doesn't have an exponent. So the 3 stays on top, and it would be m squared. Negative 7 is going to stay, even though this is a negative, it's not a negative exponent. So negative 7 stays on top. The b is going to stay on top because it's the 3rd power. This one right here is the one that you're going to move down below because it is a negative 4, so the a is going to be moved down below the line, and so you can make it a positive, a to the 4th. Let's look at number 4. You have w times w. So this is, the 7 is going to stay the same. You're multiplying, so it's 7 plus a negative 9, because when you multiply exponents, you're going to multiply exponents, you add the exponents up here, okay? So, and w, so both of these, w times w is w. 7 plus a negative 9 would be w negative 2, which to get rid of this negative in the exponent, you're going to put 1 over w squared. Number 5, you see you have a whole number. You're going to multiply your whole numbers using the multiplication rule. 5 times 4 is 20. C 8 plus your negative 3. I'm sorry. You're going to put 8 plus your negative 5. That looks like a 3 right there. And your d, negative 3 plus your negative 1, which is going to give you 20 c to the 5th c to the, it's not c to the 5th, it is c to the 3rd, c to the 3rd, sorry about that, c to the 3rd, d to the negative 4. And so with that negative 4, you're going to move d down here, and the 20 c to the 5th up at the top. When you look at this one, you have this is 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. You have x, negative 8 plus a negative 3, which gives you negative 18x to the negative 11. This negative 18 gets to still stay on top, and we're going to move the x below the line to make it x to the 11th power. Number 7, you're going to multiply these using the multiplication rule of adding. So a is negative 5 plus 7, b 8 times plus a negative 3, so 8 minus 3, and then c, negative 12 plus a 7. So we get a squared because negative 5 and a positive 7 is a positive 2. B to the 5th power because 8 minus 3 is 5. C to the negative 5 power because negative 12 plus 7. So to get your final answer, positives stay on top, the negatives go down. So this would be c to the 5th power at the bottom. Look at number 8. You see the power rule. The power rule is to multiply, okay? So you have, and with whole numbers, you put them 1 over. So 8 squared is 64, but because this is negative, it's going to be 1 over 64. That's going to be the difference here that you haven't done in any of these lessons. We know P is going to be 5 times negative 2, so we know it's going to be 10. So 1 over 64 P to the 10th is how you would do that. Here, 5 cubed is 125, and because this is a negative, it's going to be 1 over 125 times y, 2 times a negative 3, which would be a negative 6. So you're going to move this y down below. It would be 1 over 125 y to the 6th. 10 and 11 are similar to those, and I'm going to let you do those on your own. We're going to go through 12 and 13. This one is the division rule. The division rule is that you subtract the exponents. Okay? So we have H2. Remember, you put this number first and the 5 seconds. So 2 minus 5 would be equal h to the negative 3. So our answer would be 1 over h to the 3rd. When you have c to the negative 2, you're going to divide again. So it's going to be c negative 2 minus a 7, that's a positive 7, d negative 1 minus a negative 2, and you see this minus and minus is going to make a plus here. So you've got to be real careful with this, and this is where a lot of mistakes are happening. It even happens with me. C to the negative 9, D to the negative 1. Positive 1, I'm sorry. Positive 1. Because it's negative 1 plus 2 is a positive 1. So on this one, you do get, which is not this answer, your D is on the bottom, on the top, because it was to the 1st power, and C to the 9th would be below because that is your negative. And that's where you have to really be careful with this the 2 negative answers. I wanted to show you that even with that mistake, showing you that that is how those mistakes happen very easily. Just making sure those signs are correct. The next one is the next page. It gets harder as we go. Is now you have 2 numbers here that are don't have the same. You've got to find a common denominator. Well, 12 does go into both of those, so we can say 3 x. We're going to use the division rule, which would be negative 4. There's nothing to put with the x. Y is 8 minus 7. 8 minus 7, which is just y. So we have 3, y are both positive. X goes underneath because it is a negative. And this one is just like the one we just got through doing. Let's do number 18. Number 18. I want you to see that. We see that there is a negative in this one, and that's what I wanted you to see right there, is the negative piece. And what you see on this is you see that this would be a negative 1/2, because negative 4 and 8 is 1/2. P, we're still using the still using the subtraction. 1 minus the 2, Q, 5 minus the 2, R, 3 minus the 10, which gives you negative 1/2 P negative 1, Q to the third, R to the negative 7. Well, we still know that the 2 is still going to be at the bottom, and that's like you're having your 1/2. We know the Q is going to be on top because it's 3. P is going to go down, and R is going to go below the line. And that's how you would do that one. Okay, let's look at number 20. This one, they get more complicated. We know we're going to be using the addition rule. The addition rule is you have to add and subtract like terms. So you have to, and you'll do that last, and you'll get that after you have done the power rule. The power rule is to multiply. You're going to multiply your exponents, and then you're going to add and subtract. So, 4 squared is 16. So to get rid of the negative, it's 1 over 16. X to the 3 times negative 2. Y to the 6 times negative 2 equal 2 cubed is 8. So negative, when you have a negative power, it's going to be 1 over 8 times x to the 2 times 3, y to the 4 times negative 3, and then you're going to get 1/16 times x to the negative 6, y to the negative 12, plus 1/8 x to the negative 6, y to the negative 12. Now you have like terms, and you're going to have to add your 1/16 and your 1/8. Well, 1/8 you're going to have to make, you have to have common denominators, so you're going to make 1/8 2/16 in order to have a common denominator. That makes 3/16. So 3/16. Then you're going to have x to the 6th, y to the 12th. So you're going to have 3/16, and because these are negative exponents, you're going to have to put all of this underneath the at the bottom. It's not going to be on top. Okay, let's look at 21. Same thing. You're going to use the power rule first. X 2 times negative 2, y 3 times negative 2, and yes, x to the 5th times negative 3, y times 4 times negative 3, which gives you x to the negative 4, y to the negative 6 times x to the negative 15, because 5 times negative 3, and y to the negative 12. Here you're going to, when you multiply, you add the exponents. So x minus 4 plus a minus 15 is a negative 19. Y negative 6 plus a negative 12 is a negative 18. So because these are negative, you're going to put them 1 over x to the 19th, y to the 18th. And that's how you would do that one. Number 22, you have a 6 and a 12. We know that 6 will go into both of these. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply these two numbers first to get it one equation. So 6 times 5 was 30. 3 plus 9, which is 12. So, I don't know why I did that. Negative 12, a to the 14th. So then you have, you're going to use 6 would go into both of these. 6 into 30 goes 5. 6 into negative 12 goes 2. It's still negative 12 right here. You have a to the 12th, a to the 14th. Then you're just going to get rid of the division piece right here, and it's going to be negative 5 halves, a to the 12 minus 14, which is negative 5, goes on top still, 2a squared, because that was a negative, that became a negative 2, and so because that's a negative 2, you're going to put it under the fraction. As you see, these are getting a lot harder. You can do these the same way, practice, look at the answer key to see what if you're getting them correctly. We're going to do this challenge problem, and it took me a while. I was working on it, and there's just lots of steps on this, and this is what happens. You really have to show your steps, because each step is going to create something else, so you have to use another rule, and to me it was very difficult to go through this step by step. And they did the cubing last in this problem just because there was so much multiplying and dividing that they did the extra power at the very end. But first of all, 2 squared, and its negative square would be a 1/4 times 4 plus 4 times a negative 2. Y, negative 3 times a negative 2. Times, because you're multiplying, 16, because that is not a, right here, 2 cubed, that is not a negative. So it's 16, x negative 1 times a 4. I'm sorry, this is a 4, not a 3. And y negative 2 times a 4, and this is still an equation, and I put the division problem right there. It's still part of this. This is still the equation for the first one. That's step 1. Step 2, you're going to put those together. 1/4 x to the negative 8, y to the positive 6, because negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, times 16 x to the negative 4, y to the negative 8. And you're going to just rewrite this equation bottom. We haven't done anything with that yet. And we still have the cubed root over here. So be real careful with that. We still haven't so the next step is we are going to do our multiplying step right here. We know that 1/4 of 16 is 4. Then we know we add exponents. So x negative 8 add a negative 4 is a negative 12. Y 6 plus a negative 8 is a negative 2. And we just rewrite the bottom piece right here. And you're still cubing it. We haven't done that step. So this is the 3rd step. This is your 4th step. This is your 5th step. Okay? Now we're going to divide. We know that we have a 4 and a 2, so we divide that. That's just 2. X negative 12 minus 7 minus a negative 7 is going to be a negative 5, because that becomes a plus. It's a negative 7. Negative 7 becomes a plus right there. So be real careful with that. Y negative 2 minus a negative 3 makes a positive 3 right there. So this is a positive y. Then you're going to cube it. 2 cubed is 8. X to the negative is the negative 15. Y cubed. So the 8 and the y stay on top, and the x to the 15th goes to the bottom. And that was a very tricky problem, working it out. You'll want to do those steps and see if you make sure you go through every one of those steps, because you have to break them down to finish those. Make sure that you have completed quiz 6.1 of your homework of the lessons. You need to make sure you do complete this homework 4. So now you should have homework 1, homework 2, homework 3 is the quiz, and the negative exponents. Thank you, and good luck on this assignment. It's a lot harder than the other assignments have been.